Hi everybody, it's Marty Millner talking to you about real estate in Yardley, Newtown, in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And I asked a friend of mine, Vince Tesey, who has been a home inspector in Bucks County for many, many years, and somebody that I've worked with frequently over the years, to do a guest post for my blog. So after watching this video, I hope you take the time to read Vince's wonderful post. And what Vince decided to write about is a really, really important issue, and one that a lot of sellers, I think, sometimes don't take seriously enough, and it's the seller's disclosure. I'm actually holding a copy of the seller's disclosure now. It's about 6 to 7 pages in Pennsylvania. I've posted a copy of a blank disclosure on the blog also, so you can review it. And the reason that it's so important is that the law requires in Pennsylvania that a seller inform through the disclosure a buyer, prospective buyer, of any known material defect in the house. And I'm not going to go into unusual circumstances with non-owner occupied homes or something being sold as part of an estate, that sort of thing. So what I'm actually talking about today are properties that are the usual owner-occupied property. And again, the law requires that a seller execute and make available to the buyer a seller's disclosure. The reason this form is as important as it is because it's one of the few forms and documents in the transaction that actually survive settlement. That means that if a buyer were to rely on a seller's disclosure and find after they move into the house that the seller failed to disclose something of a material nature, and because of that failure to disclose, the buyer suffered harm or damage, financial loss, it is possible that even years after the settlement, the new owner can use the failure to disclose to hold the seller, former owner, responsible for financial loss. So, and that can happen even, sometimes years after ownership transfers. And that actually is the topic of Vince's post as a home inspector. So I thought, just to give you kind of a brief overview, in the seller's disclosure, it's basically very comprehensive. And the seller is going to be asked in the disclosure to answer questions basically about the entire property, anything that you know about the property. For instance, how long you've lived in the house, the condition of the roof, what you know about the roof, anything you know about basements and crawl spaces, termites, other wood-destroying insects, water issues, possible settlement issues, any alterations or additions. One of the questions that comes up relating to that is whether you've gotten permits, and that's a whole other issue, because that topic comes up sometimes also. Water supply questions, plumbing, air conditioning, heat, electric, anything you know about flooding, drainage, water in the basement, anything about environmental concerns. Do you have knowledge of radon? Are there any lawsuits pending specifically against the property? Any violations? Insurance claims? Again, you can see that this document is very comprehensive, and my advice to sellers that I work with all the time is it's far better to over-disclose than it is to fail to disclose something or omit something from the disclosure. I can't emphasize that enough. It's much better to over-disclose than it is to sort of take a bit of a cavalier approach to the seller's disclosure and run the risk of not including something that could be important. And the whole discussion as to what is material or not, is probably a subject better suited to be answered by an attorney. But basically, if it's something that would negatively impact the value or create a life safety issue, electrical problems come to mind sometimes. It might not be hugely expensive to fix an electrical problem, but it could create a safety concern. Certainly warrants finding its way on the seller's disclosure if a seller knows something to be defective about an electrical system. So again, if you're curious, check out the disclosure that I have on the blog. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to call me at 215-519-1399. Again, Marty Millner, Coldwell Banker Hartside, talking about real estate in Yardley and Newtown and Bucks County, Pennsylvania. Have a great day.